Indigenous Talks. I'm your host, Luke Velasquez from the Tunica tribe. My grandmother is Iris Craig. My mother is Susan Velasquez. And I'm with my guest today, Rory Wheeler of the Haudenosaunee Nation.
Yeah. Great to meet you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, would you like to introduce your mother and grandmother?
Of course. Yes. So Nyawe Scanacogwego, my name is Rory Wheeler, and Seneca I greeted you, and thankfully you are well. I'm a citizen of the Seneca Nation. My mother's Star Wheeler, her mother's Catherine Wheeler, who are Seneca, but who also acknowledge my dad's side. Dad Bronson Star is a citizen of the three affiliated tribes, the Mandan, Hidatsa and Arikara Nation in North Dakota. His parents are from the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation in Oregon. And so I was hoping to honor them and give credit to them because they're a big part of my journey and what brought me here.
Yeah, and just for people that don't know, as American Indians of Indigenous North America, the way we introduce ourselves, the formal introduction, is really we give credits to our tribe, our ancestors, usually to our grandmother, to our mother, or to our Indigenous side, and who paved the way for us, because without them, we would be nothing. So let's get right into it. Why did the Six Nations of the Haudenosaunee come to be?
So my nation, the Seneca Nation, we're a part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy, which is a band of 6 tribes, primarily based in New York and in Canada. From the beginning of time, we really didn't get along. We had disputes amongst various different things throughout our territory, what is now known as New York. But as time went on, we were facing hostility from other nations, and other nations within our area, as well as the colonists who were coming over. And so instead of fighting, we had a man, his name was Peacemaker, who came to all of the 6 nations, or to the 5 nations at the time, and developed this idea about uniting, knowing that there is strength in unity and how we must work together if we want to sustain ourselves and our nations for future generations. So then that's what formed the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, made up of the Seneca, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, Mohawk, and then the Tuscarora nations, and we were able to. That's a confederacy that's still going on today. One of the first forms of democracy here, what is now known as the United States, and we still hold on to our traditions and what was given to us to this day, and we still honor that and respect that.
Okay. How have the Haudenosaunee people sustained their government since 1142? What structures at place allow this?
Right, so it's hard to sustain a confederacy like that, but we've been able to do it against formidable odds. Our earliest treaties were made directly with George Washington as first president of the United States, and really built the foundation of working together in unison, keeping, working together, keeping that bond and that strength is really what helped forge that new relationship with what is now known as the United States government. And having that power and that notion, that mutual respect for each other, not to meddle in each other's affairs and try to conduct ourselves in a way that keeps us here for future generations moving forward. And that's why we still sustain those today. The principles of looking out for each other, of helping each other out, and carrying on the traditions that have been passed on to us.
Amazing. Speaking of principles, what does the 7th generation principle mean to you, and why is it crucial for the long term of sustainability for government?
It's so critically important. One of our philosophies as Haudenosaunee people is that with every decision we make, we must consider its impact on the next 7 generations. And as leaders, as members of the Confederacy, that's something we hold near and dear to us, to our longevity, that we must think of the past and honor those that came before us as well in every deliberation we make. Because that's what sustained us since time immemorial, and that's what's continued to sustain us for the future as well. It's providing opportunities for those young people you know, looking out for those that need, need the help the most has been the part of who we are, and it's kind of what kind of guides me in my everyday work.
It's amazing. That's like, I would say, to add on to that a little bit, it's like that philosophy really has spread it to all the North American tribes, because my tribe's Tunica-Waskia of Louisiana, like when I was first for my tribe, I was part of the 7th generation youth council, which the main goal was, sustain for the next 7 generations, just to show like that's a really core value of Indigenous people, even if it's not implicit in their constitution or the people, but like sustainability is really number one when it comes to it. Because if you're not thinking about the next 7 generations, there won't be a 7th generation. I see you got the hoodie on. So how does the game of stickball, which has evolved into modern day lacrosse, which is also the oldest sport in North America, but why is it so spiritual and sacred to your people?
Yes, so of our cosmology, we know that the creator gifted the game of lacrosse to us, the Haudenosaunee people, as a way to heal, as a way to settle disputes, make peace, as well as, most importantly, what we do today is have fun. And so, back in the early days, it was a way to settle disputes amongst other nations, under tribes, we had disagreements, like we do today. And it's involved in a way that continues to heal us and brings us strength and that good medicine, and that's kind of why it was given to us, and then why we gift it to the rest of the world. I'm representing here representing the Haudenosaunee Nationals. I've been very honored to be part of the organization, spreading awareness about our fights and our continued battles that we have, just to be able to play the game that we gave to the world. And what we're doing now and is trying to ensure that we can continue to do this for the younger generations going on. We had men and women playing this past summer, all over the country, all over the world. We come under we have come under considerable circumstances. In 2020, the World Lacrosse denied our spot into the World Games that took place this past year, but due to a long-standing, I guess I would say not partnership, but agreement between Indigenous nations and Ireland. Ireland forfeited their spot and gave it to us, so we were able to compete this past summer, and we did very well in the World Games. The next hurdle is going to be playing in the Olympics in 2026, and that's kind of what I've been working on and what I'm looking forward to and hopeful for us to do, because we are under formidable odds. We have about 126 player pool, and we have to choose 26 players, where the United States has 500,000 lacrosse players and Canada has 200,000. But we're third in the world, and it's something we want to continue passing down, because this is our healing and this is our medicine game.
That's great. I mean, it's a testament to your people. It's amazing. How have your Indigenous roots affected your life?
It plays a lot into who I am and what what I want to do and how I want to serve and give back. Like I said before, one of our values in the Haudenosaunee is always looking out for others and looking at ways we can strengthen our village and strengthen our community. And my grandparents were very heavily anchored in the community. We're always involved in various different efforts, organizing efforts, community service efforts, and as well. And so, I looked at them as kind of my role models, and so I wanted to do that, and I've been doing that for basically since I was about 12 years old. I've been working in the community and gotten to do so many things I never dreamed to imagine doing. But it's all in that philosophy of doing what we can to contribute back to the next 7 generations and paying homage to those that came before us. As I hold, that's where I get my strength from. It's from my Seneca people. Our Indigenous communities is what strives me, and also having so many great role models as well, who took the time and fortitude to mentor me and guide me and provide assistance to me. So it's all about giving back.
That's amazing. Do you feel that you have to follow in your ancestors' footsteps in law, as they are I would say, the founders of democracy in this country?
It definitely plays a big role, if not an exclusive role, in why I chose this field. Um, you know, Several generations ago, my grandfather was gifted a medal from George Washington due to his advocacy efforts and fighting for the Seneca Nation, fighting for just trying to maintain who we are in our lands. And we fought so hard, and we were still fighting at that time. And a lot of his work is credited to uh, who we are today. And now, as we look now, 7 generations later, me being able to be in a large university with a renowned Indigenous law and policy program is it's really a gift, and I'm really hoping I can use my education to kind of further the work I've been able to be involved with over the past few years, and some of the things I've been involved with, knowing that the law is kind of the way we kind of have to solve our problems in Indian country, unfortunately. But because federal Indian policy has kind of impacted every tribal citizen's life and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. And so having more Native attorneys focus on these issues, working on these issues that know firsthand the different things that plague our community and ways we can improve this will make the difference for the future. And that's why we need more of those motivated young people and those to take that step and find some way to give back to the community. And this is going to be my way going forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. At 15, you started work for the Seneca Nation as a legislative and executive intern. How was experiencing tribal government at such a young age?
Well, it's coming to a close on Tuesday, and it's going to be 10 years, and it's definitely been a learning experience. It was not something I ever imagined doing. I grew up knowing I would like to be involved in some way. I didn't imagine it would be at that young age, and it really opened my eyes. But I always knew that this was something I wanted to do, and something I wanted to help further for my nation, because we have a very long history of being attacked. In the 60s, our lands were taken, forcibly removed due to construction of a dam on our Allegheny territory, and then our nation and our governance, coming from a place where we were, had dilemmas where do we have money to pay the light bill this week, or are we going to make payroll, to now becoming one of the largest, $1 billion business enterprises in Western New York, and it's very significant growth, and it's kind of a testament to our strength and our resiliency, and our kind of that notion, how do we best not only look out for our own people, but also our community as a whole. And so those are things I learned, but it was also working with the council, working with our president, and also working with the community was what I really, really enjoyed. And then later on, being able to use what I learned in the government to go to Washington, D.C. and travel around Indian country has been, just gave me so much insight, and it really motivated me to be the best advocate I can for the nation, because I knew the issues that were going on the ground and had that firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, I would like to talk about, because I don't like your words, but it's like in the 1980s, American Indians actually had one of the lowest life expectancies on the planet, not just the United States, on the planet. I believe it was, but it was in the 40s. I believe it was, the average was 41 years old. Mm-hmm. And that from the 80s to 2022 is, like you said, like how far you guys came and how far we're going to go. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable, what I say. How did that experience help you with being the co-president of the National Congress of American Indian Youth Commission?
It helped a lot, and it really, because the National Congress of American Indians, also known as NCAI, is the largest, most representative organization of tribal governments and tribal citizens, founded in the 1940s, that kind of fought the way through the determination era into what we now know as the self-determination era in tribal governance and federal Indian law, to where tribes are more taking an active role in their programs, administering services for their people, and really retaining our status as sovereign nations. So my experience working with my own nation helped tremendously because I had so many great mentors in working for the nation, from our presidents to our members of our council and to our attorneys as well, who really prepared me for that role in knowing the history of my nation and what it takes to be an effective advocate. That's what really helped me in my role at NCAI, where I was able to work on a number of different issues. I was involved with the addiction task force, where that's one of the experiences I was able to use at NCAI when I was there, a member of the addiction task force, while also being at Seneca, serving as a first responder. I was able to provide those firsthand insights, but also be able to provide policy recommendations on top of that. So using my firsthand experience, being on the ground at scenes of incidences in the nation, as well as being able to be an advocate in DC at the same time is such a blessing, and helped a lot of my work in advocating, also serving in as overseeing our natural resources in the Seneca Nation, and also serving at NCAI. Also, it just gave me that firsthand experience and what's really going on the ground, and how I can best use those experiences to convey those to federal officials, members of Congress, different influencers, to kind of to work towards solutions. And also at NCAI, I use my experiences to also help other nations as well with the issues that they were experiencing, because there might be 574 federally recognized tribes, but we all share a lot of the same issues, and ways we can support each other is one of the only ways we can work to find solutions.
Yeah. When you visited my tribe's territory, I believe it had to be 3 years ago, the Tunica-Blasque, Louisiana, my tribe's territory, is about 2 hours up in New Orleans. But what was one thing that stood out to you from my tribe?
What stood out to me is your very sense of community, and knowing how, embracing the 7-generation philosophy of looking out for your future and also honoring those of your past. I felt that sense overwhelmingly, visiting the reservation, learning about the history. It really, the adversity that your tribe went through throughout time, and then now, using your strengths now and your power now to as a model of resilience and strength is what I was really inspired by, and going to continue to be inspired by in the future. You have great leadership over at Tunica-Blasque Tribe, and then the tribe is in good hands, working, meeting you and then your youth council, who will carry those traditions, carry that message and that sense of belonging, and that knowing, embracing the 7-generation philosophy for the future. So I know your tribe is in good hands, and I really was appreciative for it to come out and see what the great work you're all doing.
No, we appreciate your knowledge too, sharing again. Going back to what you said, I believe my tribe was in very murky waters, 2010, 2012. I could get into that, but I believe it really started the turnaround is when my chief, Marshal Parit, really embraced our culture, embraced our spirituality, and that leadership trickled down to the whole tribe's, every tribal citizen. And within the past decade, the progress that has been made is unbelievable. And I really just take that back to you got every tribe, they honor the culture. It's my tribe's honoring our culture, and the more we do that, and the more we apply it today, is I believe the better quality of life we have for not just American Indian citizens, but Americans as a whole. Because 7-generation philosophy can help everyone. It's just a better way of life. Could you go into the struggles of being a firefighter, EMT, and a college student all at once?
And then on top of that, I was I look back and I don't understand how I was able to do it, but I'm and then also trying to balance having a social life, I have a very large family over there in Seneca, and also throughout Indian country, so it really tested my will. Not only doing those things, but also serving on national boards, traveling just about every week or so, and then working for the nation for a few years as well, full-time, more than full-time. But it really, like I said, I evolved on my teachings from my grandparents, who instilled in me that value of giving back and trying to do what you can to help make this place a little bit better than we found it. it was a struggle, working in public safety on a reservation of about 2,000 people was definitely a very eye-opening experience, especially at a young age. At 8, I got involved with the fire department when I was 12, and then got even more involved as the first response side when I was 18, where I served as an EMT, a firefighter, and then later as a tribal law enforcement officer. It really tested my will, but it gave me that strength, that fortitude, knowing that I was doing the best I can for our people. Because there's no better sense when you're having one of the worst days of your life, and a familiar face walks in the door, someone that you can trust and rely on, and that's really what I took from it, and was able to use my skills and my education to help my people in that way. Although I don't really do it as much anymore, being at school and then having some other responsibilities now. It's definitely an experience I will forever cherish, and I know hopefully to use it in the future as well, because I did enjoy that part of giving back, serving in that type of way, because it's really not for everybody. It is a very tough thing to do, like I said, especially in a small town community. I've had my experience as well, but also, relied on a lot of my coworkers and my leadership in the department, where we worked through different issues. Because there are some really sad days, but there are some really, really happy days. I've cried tears of sadness in the back of my ambulance, and I've cried very tears of joy. I don't know, it's always that striking that balance, but nonetheless, I never found a way, more hands-on way and effective way to use my time and use my abilities to help my people, and that's why I was happy to do it for all those years.
That's amazing. Salute to your service, really. Yeah. Now the next two questions are going to be more of the issues of Indian country. Mm-hmm. So I would like to let the audience know, this is more of the harsh reality that our people are going through right now. The American Indian youth has the highest suicide rates in the United States of America. To me, this is due to the effects of the largest genocide in history, which has made our people physically, mentally, and spiritually sick. How does our youth break this generational trauma?
Yeah, this is one of the issues that I first learned about when I started getting involved in national tribal politics, that knowing that this was an issue, and it really kind of emboldens me to take action on this. I know from my experience working with the Center for Native American Youth at the Aspen Institute, this was why we were founded, because this was such an issue that was impacting so many tribal nations, tribal youth, and we really need to get to the bottom of this. We're losing too many of our children in disproportionate ways, and so when I was with the National Indian Health Board and when I was on the NCAI Youth Commissions, was one of the things we looked at, and we had to address the elephant in the room, that our people suffer from disproportionate rates of historical trauma. Because, like you said, what's been done to our people since the ships came over.
1492.
Yes, and but for me, what we always try to, the message I always try to acknowledge that Native youth are important, are impactful, and will be the future leaders of our nations. That's why we need you here, and also to heal as well, because we need to heal from what's, we might not know what's happening, what happened to us, or why we're going through these things, but there's decades and decades and decades of abuse by the government, by the churches, that really created a lot of unresolved grief in our communities. And so getting to the bottom of grief and learning about what happened and ways to heal. I think a prime example is kind of what's going on now in the boarding school movement. About my nation, we had boarding school right on our territory, and so upon ways for us, we've been having healing circles, healing events, ways to try to resolve a lot of the grief, because we can't leave that unresolved. You have to acknowledge what happened, because it's the only way we're going to continue to heal for the future, and ensuring that our future generations don't carry that unresolved grief and that trauma, and we try to make light of the situation.
And just to add on to that, The United States of America has not recognized or acknowledged the genocide of American Indians, and that just goes to show about the continuous effects of colonization.
Right.
Yeah, just who is it today? But the next question: missing and murdered Indigenous women is an epidemic of violence against Indigenous women. As of 2016, the National Crime Information Center has reported 5,712 cases of missing American Indian and Alaska Native women. Strikingly, the U.S. Department of Justice missing persons database has only reported 116 cases. The majority of these murders are committed by non-Native people on Native-owned land, and I believe the exact number is 97% of the perpetrators. And again, once again, these are non-Native men, off the tribe's territory. And also, the Indigenous women are 10 times likely to be murdered than the national average. What steps does Indian country and the American government need to take in order to end this epidemic?
Yep, so this was a very heavy subject that I got involved with when I joined NCAI in 2016, part of their Violence Against Women Task Force, which did some amazing work to at least get some sort of redress to this issue, although we're not there yet, but they played a key role in getting Congress and the administration on board on this issue. But it just stems from one of the worst Supreme Court cases called Oliphant v. Suquamish Indian Tribe, which the Supreme Court held that tribal governments do not have the authority to criminally prosecute non-natives, even if they commit crimes on tribal lands, and that has that contributed to what is going on tribal lands now with the MMIP epidemic. But we've been seeing signs of growth. There's still a lot of more work to do, but there's been work that's been done. First, what the United States needs to do is acknowledge that there's an issue, and that is, I would say, somewhat taking place right now. It's not to the level like it should be, but there's some sort of acknowledgement. In 2013, when the Violence Against Women Act was being reauthorized, tribal leaders, tribal advocates went to DC and really worked with Congress administration to restore some jurisdiction for tribal law enforcement officers to police non-natives who commit domestic violence crimes and on tribal lands. And that program is growing, so a lot of tribes have been getting involved and being able to have jurisdiction over non-natives to get some of that back, that what Oliphant kind of screwed up for us. And then now with Secretary Holland taking the helm of the Department of Interior, creating the MMIP unit within the Bureau of Indian Affairs, as well as work that she'd done previously with Congressman Sharice Davids, Congressman Tom Cole, and the Native American Caucus is getting Savannah's Act implemented in the last Congress. So there are steps that are taking place, but there's nowhere near to where it should be. What you spoke about, there's instances where non-native offenders know that they can go to tribal lands and won't get prosecuted for their crimes, and knowing there is little that the tribal government can do to stop them, especially when you have tribal police forces that have to police areas the size of Connecticut that have nowhere near the amount of officers they should be for that type of land. And then the states and the federal government's unable to assist them, or once they do assist them, they decline to prosecute the case because why in their sense of mind, why dedicate this time to a little issue on the reservation when there could be other issues they could be looking at. So the declination rate is unfortunately high for U.S. attorneys' offices prosecuting these cases, but they need more resources, they need more help. That's why it's so important that tribal governments and tribal citizens continue to be the advocates and pushing our lawmakers and even pushing our public to knowing that this is something that's going on and an issue that's impacting so many reservations throughout the country. But I do see work that is being done, and there's a lot of work being done through the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center, NCAI, NAHB, and a lot of tribal advocates, and it'll continue to go because we're not going to stop, here, and the work will continue. And it's part of the reason why I'm here in law school as well.
That's good. Yeah, tough subject, but like I said, we just need to ask. It's a tough subject. So, yeah. But we need to, as leaders of our community, we need to push it. We need to progress every day. We need to make these leaders of the United States understand, it's an epidemic. It's really just a continuation of colonization, a continuation of genocide.
Exactly.
How important is it to restore our people's culture in tribal communities?
It's probably the most important thing, I would say, is about learning who we are, and carrying that with you, because none of us would be here today if we didn't have our ancestors that carried our culture and brought it to where we are, to help us to be where we are today. It's what I hold near and dear to my heart. Is even on the best days and also the worst days, I rely on my culture and my teachings. And I think more of our young people and more of our people in general need to learn that and realize that, because it's the only way we're going to pass it down. And also, it's as an Indigenous person, it's important to know who you are and where you come from. Like I said, because we're only here because of our sacrifices of those that allowed us to sit in these rooms. So, like you said before, your chairman fought through adversity in your tribe by relying on your culture, and that's what will continue to save us, and what has saved our nations since time immemorial, is practicing those, because we're and what makes us distinct and what makes us unique as well, as sovereign nations. So it's so important to pass those down and learn. When battling the drug crisis in Seneca, we used to use our culture as prevention, because these are things that we didn't need to rely on, or we didn't use back in the day, and that's what helped move our nations forward. So it's a big part of, it's probably one of the most important things we can do.
Yeah, and to add on to that a little bit, the American Indian federal policy for the longest time was kill the Indian, save the man, and that's why it's some people are like, oh, why all American Indians are alcoholics or druggies or whatever. I'm like, if you got genocided too, it would be the same issue, and that's why as we restore our culture day by day, generation by generation, we are becoming stronger and stronger. And I believe once we have, my tribe is still reclaiming my culture. I'm still reclaiming my culture. My tribe's chief is still reclaiming our culture. It's a progress for us all, because my tribe in the 1940s, our language was extinct. However, we were able to bring that back because our tribe language was a mixture of Choctaw, Chickasaw, and a few other tribes, but still, we bring that back, and I believe there was 23 L2 speakers of my tribe's language right now. So just reclaiming our culture, our language, our traditions when it comes to stickball or anything. It's day by day, generation by generation, and the more we do that, the more I believe the prosperous Indian countries and America will be. So what is your favorite American Indian story?
So mine would be someone that I look to and I hold as a role model. I think so many other young people should, is the story of Jim Thorpe, a member of the Second Fox Nation. My favorite story is, one I think about is and what he stood for was just a model of strength, resilience, and courage. In one story, he was ready to run a race, and his very important race, and his shoes were stolen, because I can't imagine the amount of adversity as the world's greatest athlete, and plus being a Native American under a time of such discrimination and hatred. But his shoes were stolen. He had to run 2 different shoes and compete, and he was able to win that. And so that simple act has been an inspiration to me, and this story I always like to share to especially to people my age, to young people, even to the community in general, just about his courage and strength. He didn't let that deter him. He didn't let that what he went through because he went to a boarding school, went to the Carlisle Indian School, where my great grandmother went. And so that also holds a lot of special meaning, and the work he was able to do and be such an impeccable role model, because Native youth need role models right now, and especially with the issues of suicide and the needing and MMIP, Native people need to look to resilient people, and he's who have I looked up to since I was a little kid.
One of my favorite Jim Thorpe stories, when he was at Carlisle playing West Point, he actually got knocked out of the game, and right after they were like, oh, he's not going to be done for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets checked right back in, and he trucks future president Dwight D. Eisenhower in the game and gets him out. I'm like, that's so
I
cool.
love that.
That's so cool. Yeah. What is one thing that you wish every American knew about your tribe's culture?
I want to know. I mean, one thing I always like to share is about how the peacemaker knew to unite us, and how that knowing that there is strength in unity, and that's what sustained us, and that's how we were able to hold our land and hold who we are, because we never really left where we are. We've been where we've been since time immemorial. It's because of unifying, and I think that's what I like to share, is that there is strength in unity, and that we can only move forward when we're not fighting amongst each other. That does happen with tribes and between different tribes and whatnot, but what's kind of sustained us has been working together and trying to help each other. And that's what I like to share, is that we all might have different issues and stuff, but at the end of the day, we need to work together, because the government does not discriminate on tribes. They will, sometimes they're not afraid to have court decisions or legislation that will hurt us, but we need to be strong and unified against that. Or we need to be strong and unified, and I do see it right now with attacks on the Indian Child Welfare Act, which the Supreme Court will be arguing, which will be argued before the Supreme Court on Wednesday. And it's another example of tribes working together, tribal organizations, trying to ensure the safety of children, and that we can continue to be recognized and given the rights we are as sovereign nations. So, working together is very important.
That's great. Who do you credit most to your success?
I can't really not focus on. I mean, my family has been a very large part of that, but my community has been the main source of strength and inspiration I credit for getting me to where I am today. I never imagined doing this type of work. I kind of had small expectations for myself from a kid from the reservation, but having the community's trust, having the community's strength behind me whenever I need them has been is what has contributed to success, and will continue to do so. That also emboldens me to be that for other people as well, and that's what I hope to continue to do, and hope to continue to be that motivator for other people, because I have so many from my community and done that to me.
That's amazing. What lesson has a tribe elder taught you that you still carry on today? Or lessons, should I say?
I guess it's very cliche, but it was just that simple notion of, every time I would travel to Washington, D.C., especially at a young age, or traveling to different areas to meet with officials, or, doing something that was really foreign to me. I was a kid from the reservation that really didn't have too much exposure to the outside world, before high school, but my tribal leaders, my elders, they would just give me this simple notion of just don't remember who you are, and that would be remembering who you come from, a resilient people who have fought against adversities since the beginning, and who will continue to face adversity in the future, but taking those adversities in stride. Knowing that you may make mistakes in the future, or in your dealings, but knowing that if you don't repeat them, then it's not a mistake. They're more lessons than anything, and use them as a learning experience. And so that has been my motivator, my work, because it can be. I found it at times hard to kind of balance living in two worlds. You want to live in a world like here, going to a school that teaches so much on English common law and but also trying to find that balance of of who I am as an Indigenous person, and striking that balance has been, I guess it's been difficult to grasp, but always end of the day leaning on where I come from and who I am has been has driven me kind of not across the finish line, but drives me towards that finish line.
What is one book you would recommend to our Indigenous youth?
Yeah, I guess right off the bat, I would say "They're There" by Tommy Orange. Just the stories that were in there has been very helpful for me and being a part and listening to them. I have it on audiobook. I don't have time to read anymore besides my case books, but so far I've been reading it and it's been just so inspirational, and that's again like something that Native youth need to hear because it kind of emboldens you to to learn more about your culture and who you are and what strength and power that'll give you into whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'll put that link in the description once this video is uploaded. What are your plans after law school?
So, being here in Anishinaabe lands here in Michigan State, it's been been really grateful for everybody here. But it's nice to take a little bit of a break. Before COVID, I was on the road every week. Working with different tribes, organizations. But I hope to go back to that world of advocating, representing tribes, and working in Washington D.C. with our lawmakers and different allies that can help us in a lot of the struggles that we go through. But being here, I will learn the necessary tools I need to be an more effective advocate and leader in those spaces, because it's really important for having an Indigenous person in those spaces, because a lot of the times we encounter people that is their first time meeting an Indigenous person, learning that tribes are around and stuff, and demystifying a lot of the stereotypes that are put out there against us. And so I just hope to getting back out there to Indian country, but knowing that it will come in due time, and I'm just happy to be here having the supportive Indigenous law faculty here at Michigan State, and then other law students who are practicing Indigenous law as well, who have been my support system during this time as well.
That's amazing. What has been your proudest moment?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I guess I always think my proudest moment has been just having the trust of my community. I served as an appointee of our president and our council from I was 15 until I was 21, then 21 moving into elected office until 2020, and then getting to another elected office, which expires on Tuesday. So this Tuesday, so in a couple days. Just having the trust in my community has been my greatest success, and that's my proudest moment. Not only be able to represent my nation, but also being able to work on behalf of other organizations and support them and the work that they're doing has been I've just been so happy. It's just unbelievable that I could do this work, but it's part of the reason it brought me here, so I can do this work and do it better. And given the necessary tools, studying law, and then being in these different spaces, it's been been happy to do this work, and it's a blessing. It's not easy all the time, and I'm going to encounter setbacks in the future, and I have encountered setbacks, but nonetheless, having this support and strength in my community, because they give me the power I need to be here, and representing them well. But it's a huge responsibility, but nonetheless, if I got to be the one to take it, I'll do it.
That's amazing. This brings us to our last question. What is your vision for Indian country in the next 50 years?
If we look back 50 years ago from where we are now, it was a time of just kind of turmoil for tribes at times. We didn't have too many Indigenous attorneys. We didn't have the level of resources that we have now, but we have what we can do but we have them now. And so I just hope that we continue growing and fostering as tribal government, tribal citizens, as drawing on our heritage, on our traditions and our culture as a means to guide us into the future, as well as using our collective strength to advance our priorities as well. You know, in 50 years we will still be encountering setbacks, but I'm hopeful that we will continue to use our history as a strength as well to guide us through those setbacks. Like I said, we have an attack of the Indian Child Welfare Act that's going on right now, which unfortunately maybe there are people that want to see that go further to extinguish tribes, and that idea is very much out there. But from what I see and see be a lot of strength and be a lot of work that so many people are doing, I just hope we continue doing that. Educating ourselves, educating our peers, and just being advocates for our tribes, because that's how we've sustained ourselves, and that's how we're going to do it for the next 50 years and into even beyond 50 years.
It's amazing. My chief talked about that too. Is that he didn't take everything away from us.
Mm-hmm.
They would never take away our identity,
mm-hmm.
and that is like everything. And I would just like to thank you once again, and a great future leader, not just for Indigenous people, but for all of America, Rory Wheeler.
Yeah, well, thank you for
nice
doing
talking
this.
to you.
Likewise.